Hey guys, it's Friday night. I did a video yesterday, but my girl just called me and she's really struggling. She said that she reached out because she couldn't do that to her family. So, please pray. Please pray for strength. Also, if you got somebody you love who's struggling, let them know how much you love them. It makes a big difference.
Okay, let me grab my phone. Alright, so we're going to kind of go through literally the same questions, but just get a different perspective on it.
I think I had a pretty average childhood from the South perspective, like growing up, going outside, I did school, I did really well when it came to academics, so it was something I enjoyed.
I think our family's been pretty normal with the flow of things we've done, constant vacations, really bonded together through everything that we did, very constantly in church. You know, we've always been together through our faith and time together.
Growing up, we were all like super close. Me and my sister were like best friends growing up. My mom, my dad always we're always there, we were all there for each other. We all played games together every night, all watched TV every night. And we were just like a super tight-knit family that always did everything together. It was like everybody knew everything that was going on with everybody. And we were just all super close and loved each other very much.
Abby was always a child who wanted to please and always did exactly what you asked of her. She never, ever got in trouble. She just wanted to please you. And that was exciting and scary at the same time.
It was probably, I was 13 or 14 when I really started struggling with depression. So it went from being like super energetic and excited about school to dreading a little bit more of the day-to-day tasks.
I first found out Abby was struggling when she was in middle school. She came to me right before a volleyball game and said, "Mom, I think I have an eating disorder." And I said, "Okay, tell me what happened." And she said that she was learning about it in health and she's noticing the patterns that she's seeing, and she wanted to tell me about it because she didn't want to hide anything. And so that was the first experience that I had with she was struggling.
So I ended up developing an eating disorder at 14. And that was kind of when things started to take a big downturn.
It wasn't long after that we had a spell for me when I really first recognized things were going on. I had looked for her for one evening where I was just checking in on her. She was at a neighbor's house next door. Nobody was there. She was just house sitting and didn't get a response. So when I went over there, I'd found she had actually, I guess, had tampered with substance, and it really put her in a spot where she was helpless at the moment. And that was a pretty big panic time for me, and getting involved and really getting through that situation. Through that one evening and night, we had to take her to the hospital, but it was right upon that moment I really realized something big was going on that was more than I could control, and definitely immediately wanted to begin to get help to be able to help her out as much as possible.
Post that, I was actually able to get a pretty good handle when it came to my anorexia with the help of a teacher at my school and my parents. They were super, super supportive when it came to just getting me the help that I needed. But my depression and my anxiety just were kind of left unchecked. And my identity crisis, you know, everyone has a teenage identity crisis, but mine was kind of amped up by my mental health. So I was really struggling with self-hate and just not knowing who I was. And it turned into bulimia as a way to kind of morph myself into someone that would fit in better. So it definitely turned into something that I saw as a means to acceptance.
Fast forward, things began to change. Our relationship began to change. She no longer wanted to share what was going on. And I found out that she really was just struggling to live and the desire to live. It was terrifying.
At the very beginning, I was super open with my parents, just like, oh my gosh, I'm freaked out, what do I do? And then it kind of transitioned to me seeing them as the enemy, like someone that wanted to stop me from doing a behavior that made me feel better, even though it was only temporarily. So it was a lot of anger towards my parents. I viewed them as someone that was trying to stop me from living to my fullest potential, even though what I was doing was definitely destroying me. So it wasn't until, unfortunately, it was on my 17th birthday that my brother, we had a Jack and Jill bathroom. He had actually heard me using behaviors with my eating disorder.
I first found out in 7th grade. I was really surprised. I didn't know anything that was happening. Like, now looking back at it, I see like times where I knew stuff was going on, but I didn't know it was going on because I was like a little kid. And then my first reaction was just like surprise, like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? Like, what is going on? Like, I was just really lost and surprised.
It happened while my mom was upstairs with my brother, and he was able to say, like, Mom, this has been going on. And I, of course, lied. I was like, no, of course not. I would never do that. Almost insulted, like they would ask.
In the beginning of this process, I think as a parent and having a teenager, my first reactions are thinking that part of this is what everybody goes through at that time of life, or there's some rebellion going on, things that could just be obstructing that I need to guide them through, and really learning very quickly that this is a medical condition and it is a serious matter, but it's also something that person can't necessarily control, that they need the help and involvement in their lives to begin to help them to grow through it and learn how to cope with these things.
I wanted to change the way she was feeling. I wanted to protect her from those feelings. And I wanted her to be happy. I wanted everything about her life to be wonderful, because that was what that's what you want for your kids. And so that was the first time that I learned, and kind of as it progressed. So fear, I would say, is my major response, and then jumping into action as to how can I fix this, what can I do?
It was all just kind of compounding. So like small things turn into big things. So like my small predisposition when it came to my eating disorder became bigger with, I was also experiencing sexual assault at school by some of my peers, and I was uncomfortable to tell anyone about it. I wasn't really educated on what that meant and how to talk about it. So I kind of kept it to myself, and that is a huge burden. So I definitely took it out on my own body. When it came to self-harm or alcohol or my eating disorder. And I'm lucky that I started treatment towards the end of my junior year, and my team there saw just how severely I was struggling. And I was actually transferred to Miami to go into a residential care facility for my eating disorder.
Me and my dad always used to watch Saturday football games together, and it was like, he was never home to watch the games with me. So I was watching them by myself, and I was like, wow, Abby's getting all the attention. And then when she started going through treatment in different states, my parents were gone every other weekend. So I was living by myself as a middle schooler. So that really impacted me, because I had to learn how to grow up, and I couldn't be the little middle schooler playing around. I had to be more mature. I learned how to take care of myself.
But when I left, I kind of had this pink cloud mentality that everything was just going to go back to normal and disappear. Not quite how that works, especially when you're dealing with the type of mental illness that I have. And it was not too far after that I fell back into bulimia and self-harm, and I was in treatment once again. And this is a repeating cycle for the next couple of years.
I am currently in Lamont, Illinois, getting Abigail checked into a new facility. I got a call today, and Abby is set to discharge on March 15th. That is 9 sleeps away. Morning, checking in from Piedmont Henry. It's a little after 5 a.m. She did get released and came home on Friday, which was her 20th birthday. This weekend, I took her to a small town outside of Nashville, Tennessee, to a ranch, and the ranch specializes in trauma and recovery.
So I do things that keep me in treatment, but I'm kind of tired of this whole cycle. So it was like really a lot of self-sabotaging, I think, where I was just confused about what I wanted my life to be, if I wanted my life to be, and how to get that. Because you get so comfortable, I think, in just being sick. It becomes a part of your identity.
The hardest moment that we walked through was when Abby said that she had no will to live. She was super honest, and I'm so grateful for that. She did that while she was in a counseling appointment. We took her to the hospital, and we sat with her until they kept her at the mental health hospital. And she was just empty. She had no drive. And I said, I will come and see you. And she said, don't bother. And so you had to really stop and say, no, I will fight for you. I will love you. And right now you're feeling empty inside, but that emptiness is going to pass. And so obviously that was something that I had to work through personally, but it was a great opportunity for her to see that there is nothing that will cause us to abandon her. There is nothing that will cause us to walk away, because that's what love looks like.
Those times were super hard, super hard. When I didn't call my mom, I changed my name on Facebook to not have my last name in it because I thought that was like a petty way of disowning my family. So my parents were super open to understanding that trying to fix me was only going to make me have resistance, whereas understanding that asking me, how can we help, I was able to tell them what I had learned, how to best help me, and that kind of helped move things forward.
Even though there are struggles, because nothing's ever going to remain perfect day to day, more and more each time there is a struggle, as a parent, I'm able to let that go through its process and know that everything's going to be okay, and especially watching her develop, knowing that even though we see these things every once in a while where there might be something slip or even her have a personal struggle, knowing that she's developed so much further to know that she can get through this, and with the support of others is constantly growing and moving forward.
I have learned that I am not responsible for other people's behavior. So when she's struggling, maybe 10 years ago, I would have said, okay, tell me I can fix it, and I would jump into action. But I've learned to say, how can I help? Is there anything I can do?
Day-to-day life now does not necessarily look how I thought it would when I started my journey. I thought by now I would just be acing everything. Like I would just kick depression to the curb and move forward. But one of my diagnoses is bipolar disorder, and that's something that's a lifelong journey. And so I've had to kind of adjust my expectations to when I wake up some mornings, I'm excited to go to bed like 2 minutes later. Like I'm ready for the day to be over. And I think something that I've worked hard on is saying that there's a fight in me and there's a struggle in me. It's which one I feed. The struggle's not going to go away. I can't ignore that this has been a huge part of my life for the past few years, and it probably will be for the majority of the remainder of my life. But there can be joy found in that. It's making the decision a conscious decision with a lot of effort and a lot of support around me to be able to say, I can take a step.
But what would your advice be to someone who is actually struggling with these things, and then what would be, kind of your advice to people who don't really understand what it is?
So one of the biggest things I would say very first and foremost is to just recognize that it's not necessarily something that they can help and can take care of, and being willing to open up to those that can support the individual, getting support for your family personally.
The biggest piece of advice I would have is you're not alone. Seek medical help and get people who are specialized in whatever condition your child's struggling with, and trust those people.
You're not alone. There's obviously many people that are going through it. It might not feel like it at the time, but there's so many people that are here to reach out, for you to reach out to and talk to, and so many people that just love and care about you.
I think mental health is tricky because there's two sides of this pendulum where mental health is taboo and we don't talk about it, and there's the other side where it's overused. You can find your people. You can find your people that aren't gonna feel shameful for you. They're just gonna take you where you're at and kind of go with that, because support, you can't do it without support. So I think it's just important to reach out to professionals and to people that really know what they're talking about to say, hey, this is what's going on, and I think this is a good game plan for you.